Hey, this is Len.
This is Devin.
And Marcus.
And we just saw Pacific Rim. Holy cow.
Awesome. No plot whatsoever. Very
standard, bland plot.
See, I can't even call it that. It was just like beat the shit out of those monsters.
It basically was. Well, like they tried doing a little bit of stuff with the whole. Obviously, spoilers abound in this video, but yeah, they had the whole we have to sync with the giant mech robots.
The drift program.
The drift program reminded me a ton of Evangelion.
I was waiting for somebody in Tokyo to come by, Tokyo Drift style. You need somebody to drift, bro?
Yo, dog, you got my nos going on.
Right? No, it was very cool. Very reminiscent of the Evangelion series with the whole needing to meld with the robot and everything like that, is what I thought. I haven't watched all the way through Evangelion, so I don't know for sure, but that's just what it reminded me of.
It was basically the same thing. It kind of surprised me that they had two of them, because it seems kind of tough for them to synchronize their movements.
But it did make sense in their explanation of why they needed both of them, because
so much power going on there. Yeah.
Any thoughts there, Devin?
Yeah, I really hope they turn this into a video game.
That would be...
Actually, that's another thing I just saw, is apparently Part 2's in development, and they have a video game in development.
Yeah. I just hope they don't make it into a really shitty video game like they did with so many other movie games.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be similar to arcade style fighter, Mortal Kombat style, kaiju versus Jaeger.
I kind of wanted it to be a bit like Transformers, because wasn't Transformers kind of like free roam? Well, no, the levels are a bit open. And
the levels were pretty good, open kind of feel. I would like to see them do old school. God, I feel old saying this, but going back to the Sega when they did the Godzilla and Mothra games, you could trample the city and stuff like that. I'd love to see that.
Oh, I remember that
kind of thing.
That was fun.
Completely retro, they're not going to do it, I know that, but it'd be really cool to see something like that.
Yeah. But, I just do love the monster design in here. Holy cow, because they have a ton of different monsters, and they all have their own kind of unique look and feel, and
they seem to be based off of animals that we already had.
Yeah, that was something I noticed with one of the fights in the middle of the movie. The giant, it looked like a giant gorilla, except for a monster, of course.
That big beer gut going on there.
Yeah, just the way he moved, he reacted and stuff like that. Even the structure, it looked like just a giant ape. And I liked it. It was pretty cool. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Yeah. But at the same time, a lot of other monsters were like, what the hell is that thing? The thing with the tail.
Yeah.
It reminiscent of a scorpion, but it didn't have the pincers or anything like that. Yeah. Only 4 legs opposed to 6. So it was interesting.
Just so much crazy dumb stuff going on in this movie, but it's all amazing to see. The monster that has a tail, its mouth spat out acid.
Yeah, acid.
Crazy strong acid.
I loved how they took care of the tail. The tail had the weird, it was like another hand almost, the claws coming from it. Mm-hmm. But I liked how they took care of it with the exhaust, or the coolant that they ejected to freeze the tail. I was like, oh, that's pretty smart.
Yeah, it's pretty reminiscent of The Amazing Spider-Man, how he took out, or he kind of took out the lizard that way.
Yeah.
But then, they take out the tail, and then just out of nowhere, arms pop out and wings from those arms. I'm a pterodactyl, bitch! And
like we talked about on the way home, that it was hilarious, because I just kind of threw up my hands, and it was peripheral vision, watched our entire group all at the same time. It was just what the fuck is that? What just happened? Where did those come from?
And then they're going up into the upper atmosphere, and it's just you know what, whatever, we have a chainsaw, let's just use it. Why did you use that before?
Yeah, but I really liked the chainsword. The chainsword
so cool.
looked pretty badass.
It was crazy cool.
Yeah, I really liked how we kept on building robots better and faster and stronger. So the masters, that's another thing. There's the creators of these things. They're not just coming in trying to eat everything. They're actually mechs of their own, really, but
Yeah.
organic based, and so
All made from the same design.
Yeah, they were clones. It's fucking crazy, but we would always build ours bigger and faster, try and take them down easier, so they would build theirs better, evolve them. And that's where the acid came from, the flying.
Yeah. They had this like electric attack that took
Oh
out
yeah,
our
the
electrical
EMP
systems.
type attack. That was another thing. I was just like, what?
Devastating.
What? Why?
Yeah, that was very interesting. Like, it's like their creatures continued to adapt, and we were just like, we're superior, we're kicking your ass, we're not building any more mechs to protect ourselves.
Shutting
Well,
down
this is-
that program was the stupidest thing ever.
They
It's
had-
like, what was that?
And, like, it makes sense from the storytelling perspective. They had to have a reason for us not to have too many mechs. But, like, just to say, hey, you're kind of, like, slightly losing more mechs than you're building, so we're just gonna shut down entirely and make a wall. Because that'll solve all the problems.
I'm betting they wouldn't lose as many mechs if they didn't do one-on-one fights all the time. I was wondering that entire time. It's like, if they had so many to begin with, why weren't they fighting like 2-on-1 or 3-on-1?
The
Yeah,
wall was
it
in there.
seemed like each continent only had one mech
Yeah.
to, like, that coastline, or
Mm,
one
none of-
up and down,
And,
so...
and they used to have 30 mechs, they said. Like, they used to
Yeah.
have a ton. But
Not a single one, well, not that they showed, had long-range weapons. All of them were like close range. It's like you would think that they would throw one person in with close range, and then another guy like throw down some bracket things on their feet to hold them in place, and have this freaking gauze cannon on their shoulder or something.
that'd be
I mean,
amazing.
just basically snipe them.
Yeah, it was interesting to see in their choice of up front, really close melee fighting.
Yeah.
I think the only real gun we saw was
Plasma thing.
The plasma
They
cannon.
had the plasma cannons on their hands, but they also had the mech
missiles.
with the missile
Oh yeah,
chest.
their
Yeah.
chest thing like slid open, and there are like 6 of the big turd things in there.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that was
that
the-
was effective at long range, but they proceeded to use it only up close when they've stunned something, just for higher accuracy. But
Yeah.
it was still just like, that's all you guys have distance-wise. And the plasma cannons didn't seem like they had any range at all. It was like a real short, close shotgun blast is what it
Yeah.
looked like.
Yeah. Well, it seems like they kind of mostly use them if the melee attacks failed, which yeah, it's kind of dumb. Like they seemed like they were trying to just, like slam the creatures into the ground a lot, even though half the time they were fighting in the river. So I'd imagine
The
they wouldn't
water
really
would
do a
cushion
bunch
the
of
blow.
damage. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the water would cushion the blow, but it's like just the way they're built. That goes back to their weapon design. Is it's strictly like brawling mechs. That's all
True.
they really had was the up close brawlers. So
Yeah. True. just seeing them fight though was pretty incredible. Like I was ever since like, you know, the original Godzilla movies, I've been waiting for like them to make a giant monster movie, because I like Cloverfield, but that wasn't quite, you know, giant monster fighting monster thing.
the Cloverfield movie I found to be more story based than it was really about the monster itself. It
Yeah.
was like what's going on behind it. And I mean, it's a good movie in its own right, but I'm not one for, I don't want to see what's going on front lines. I wanted to see like them trying to kick the shit out of that monster in Cloverfield, and
Yeah.
it was disappointing as a big, like, going to something like this where it's just nonstop action, monster versus mech, and then you think back to Cloverfield and it's like, that movie could have been so much better, you
Yeah.
know. But they're two different movies, and I understand that. But if there's still talk that they might do a part 2 for Cloverfield, I prefer that they take more of a direction like they did with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really nice.
Well,
Kind of a slight side note, spoiler type of thing. Turns out these things were actually dinosaurs. That was their first attempt to take over the world, because this is what they're trying to do. They basically harvest planets and take up all their resources and such. And their first attempt on ours was the dinosaurs, and our atmosphere was basically too bad, like not good enough for them, so they couldn't survive. And
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to see them take the whole alien background story. It was like a monster movie with an alien background check
was
to
like-
it, you know. It was cool, but at the same time, it was totally out of left field. Like, it was like, aliens are doing this to us? Like, I was expecting, like, hell fucking split open under the earth, and it's, you know, that's where they're coming from, but no, we're gonna go with aliens.
it's
So.
aliens.
Well, this,
of course.
like when they mentioned the dinosaurs, that's kind of like the moment where I kind of stopped like focusing as much attention on the story, and I was just like, okay, the aliens made the dinosaurs, and yeah, whatever. I'm just focusing on the giant monster fights from now on.
That's pretty much what the movie felt like it was made for, though. It's
Yeah.
like Guillermo del Toro was like, okay, I'm gonna make this movie, no story whatsoever, guys. We're just gonna make it. It's just gonna hit nostalgia, you know, pure just fight monsters, explosions, cool
Yeah.
weapons. And that's what the movie's going to be about. And we'll throw in like some dialogue, so it's not just all fighting. I could have even gone without some of the dialogue. It was just
yeah.
like I don't care what's going on with that.
They had like the whole like all these. I mean, they did have like good amount of like kind of trying to set up some character stuff. Each of them had their own tiny little mini story, but never really affected the whole main plot.
It wasn't really important. Didn't care about it so much. It's like we don't care where the black guy came from. Just
Yeah, and
Just
especially
fight.
to kill them off. Like so many, like they tried to connect and weave like a good character basis on everybody that seemed important, but two of them live through the entire thing.
Yeah.
Except for there is Charlie Day.
My
which-
favorite character
from-
in there.
It's
Hilarious.
always Sunny in Philadelphia. If any of you guys watch that hilarious show,
Great job. I loved his part in the film. Just hilarious scientist, and the tattoos.
And what was the black market guy again?
Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman. Oh, that was so amazing.
Ron
to see.
Perlman missing an eye,
The
attempting
golden
to-
teeth.
the golden shoes.
Golden heeled shoes or something.
Yeah. Hey, at least he was worried more about his shoe than being eaten by a kaiju. So
yeah, that was one of the things I didn't like. It's like why is this freaking giant monster pregnant?
Yeah.
I don't
pregnant.
understand
Okay.
why they did that.
that was another thing. It was like they're supposed to be clones of each other or clones of previous animals that have been changed and modified. It's like, why was it pregnant? Like,
Yeah.
what got it knocked up? Was one of those makers like, yeah, I'm into kaijus, you know, something like that? This is a weird, just like, how?
And like not just that, but like I mean, I was kind of expecting the aliens to go with that route as like a new surprise attack, maybe that hey, our dead bodies will attack with more of them sprouting out.
Yeah.
But like they had that one baby come out, and that's about it.
That was it.
Like baby came out just so we can eat Ron Perlman, so we can arrive after the credits.
Yeah, I think it was just a means to an end for that. It's like, hey, let's add a tiny little funny thing in there.
Yeah.
I think the funniest part out of the entire movie was when the Jaeger punches through the building though and hits that little swing thing.
The ball bearings. I can't. What
Yeah.
are those called?
Yeah, that was hilarious. That was so
Barely.
yeah, and that was just perfect. And not to mention the fact that they just knocked the fucking building down 2 seconds later.
Yeah.
But it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Did any of you hear GLaDOS?
I
did.
heard it.
I was like, oh my god, this totally could be used as a prequel to Portal.
Oh yes, I was just
Yeah.
amazed at this Gladys' voice. That was awesome. Man.
Yeah, it was overall. It was just really good. I'm surprised that they're doing a sequel. I could have just seen it as, hey, we're done with the movies. You know,
Yeah.
Looking at the different aspects, they are basically using portals to get to our planet, and so it makes sense that they could do it again and attempt to, you know, with a bigger force or stronger monster, something like that, to take us over. But it doesn't make sense that they actually keep this series alive because they
Yeah.
ended it pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, it closed up all the holes. I felt like it was overall just like finally they've just done a movie where we don't have to worry about a sequel, and it was a fun time, went to the movies, watched it for 2 hours, loved the movie, end of story. But now
Yeah.
it's like I come home, find out there's part 2, and it's like, I don't know how I feel.
Well, I mean, people, they love franchises because they get a lot of money out of franchises or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I understand. I just feel that franchises should be less of a commonality. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just overused at this point. It's like X-Men has franchise, you know, Spider-Man's got his franchise. You hear
Yeah.
about all these comic book movies, and then you've got shit like not True Blood, New Moon, whatever the hell that was
Twilight.
called. Yeah,
Oh,
Twilight.
Twilight.
Yeah, that's what it was. you've got shit like that out there. I mean, everything's just becoming like a franchise. It has to have a trilogy or something.
Everybody
like that.
wants more money. That's just what it comes down to.
Unless you have like an actual like really long saga planned out that's got like some good interweaving stories in there, then sure, go for it.
There's no room for that. There was no story. I mean, there was, but there wasn't.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is like I like just it being like a dumb fun movie. Like it wasn't. You didn't have to overthink everything. It was just like this is.
There are
this
robots,
happened.
there are monsters. They're fighting. It's
Exactly.
awesome.
I mean, once you start to think about it, the story does like start to fall apart. So just going into this movie, you just expect it to be, just munch your popcorn and watch a giant robots fight the giant monsters.
Yeah, seriously, it's just like an old school Godzilla film, like Godzilla Mothra fight.
Yeah.
You know?
Basically.
I didn't really like the Asian girl. I don't know, I want to consider a main character, but kind of a side character that worked alongside the main character. But like her accent was just so weird. It reminded me of if any of you guys have watched Heroes, the deaf chick that couldn't talk really well.
Yeah.
Where she sounded exactly like her.
Kind of, yeah.
Is she deaf too? Why is she talking like this? I don't understand.
Chinese, I guess, or heavily accented.
Yeah,
speaking of Chinese, sorry to interrupt you, but speaking of Chinese, this just goes to show how Hong Kong is. It's just like they use whatever they can, whenever they can, however they can. They built slums around the skeletons of the kaijus.
Now, see, I saw that more of a trophy of humanity kind of thing. Like, we were able to take down a kaiju, and that's what I thought. Like, I would totally do that if, like, oh, a giant dead monster just landed in my yard. Fuck yeah, I'm building inside that thing. You know, that would be totally badass. That's just how I saw it. It was funny.
Yeah.
And I totally loved, like, the way they did it, but it was kind of just like, wow. There's scavengers all around.
I do want to note that this military is kind of poorly run. I mean, like, they have all these people that, like, really can't get a good grip on their emotions or their memories at all. It seems like
the first part was military based, but after they started building that wall, then there wasn't a military. It was just
a bit more independent.
Yeah, an independent resistance that was funded by some black market kaijo parts dealer.
Yeah, and the fact that it wasn't a common thing for people to be able to drift together, because you had people who were capable of doing it and other people who couldn't, and I think that's why it seemed less military like operated, because it was just like you had to find people who could run these machines, and a lot of them weren't military trained. They were trained afterwards, but that was more brawling mech training kind of thing, like how to operate the Jaeger. It didn't feel like they were actually sent into the military and run through like boot camp and stuff like that. It was like, we need these people now, we train them, we get them out there fighting.
And I guess it makes sense in that they didn't really have too much time to train the girl. The first time you sync with one of the mechs, or drift with it, you read all the memories of the other person and your memories, I guess, at the same time.
Oh, it's every time you sync up.
Okay.
That's what the brothers are talking about, is he's like, well, it's not the first time you're going to be in my head kind of thing.
Okay.
It's interesting the way they do that.
And it's just, like, this girl, like, I guess she had a memory of when she was a little girl and she witnessed a kaiju attack, first person when she was like, tiny little 6-year-old or something. And then like she sees that the black guy rescued her in a Jaeger. But it's like, I guess she never really got a grip of that memory or something. Like, I think she'd been used to it.
Traumatic experience, or maybe.
It's they talk about it a little bit, where the black guy brings up the fact that she was in it for vengeance. It wasn't. She was just in for it to help the planet. It was in for herself, and that's what was fueling her emotion. And I think a lot of it came from the fact that she felt her partner's emotions when his brother had passed away, remembering those memories and feeling, because you feel their emotions also.
Yeah.
All those emotions pushed her to that point, and I think the reason she delved so far into it is because it was her first time actually linking up with a partner. It wasn't...
Okay.
Like he said, it's not like training. It's not a simulation anymore. This is a real deal. And I think you kind of see her move past that. Well, I mean, you definitely see her move past it in the second fight. You know,
Yeah.
she's adapted to, okay, I'm going to expect these emotions. And I think everybody, it sounds like, went through that kind of process of they're not used to it. I mean, how invasive would that be to have somebody else's mind inside your mind? You
That
know?
would be, yeah.
So I can understand it to a point, but at the same time, I don't know.
I don't know. Just didn't like her.
Well, it's just like you think you'd want like. Also, it does seem like they'd want like people that. I mean, I understand they want the best of the best of like the military, but like these the mechs they had, the Jaegers, they didn't really move terrifically fast. So
Not until Mark V.
Mark V. So you think they just want people that can probably handle themselves in a good brawl? But
Well, that's what they said, is the people that they were looking for were brawling.
Fighters.
Yeah, they were fighters. They were.
Yeah.
Yeah, each generation of mechs probably wanted a different like style.
okay.
And I think you
people.
see a lot of that with the three-armed mech. You know,
Yeah.
that was totally... I thought the design was funky looking, but it was a really cool idea.
Yeah.
Should they have died so easily?
No.
No, I think that was ridiculous. Yes,
the-
they were there supporting, you know, crew, and you knew they were going to die, but the way they died and stuff, it was just like, come on, that mech could have done so much more.
They had like three kind of like rotating like saw blades, I guess, in their hands, and like two Asian guys running it. And then like the other mech had two Russian people in there, but you can tell that they were just red shirts.
Yeah. Yeah, the Russians are running a first edition mech, and
Oh,
so
Really slow and
Really
clunky.
bulky.
and
but-
so when as soon as they announced that, there was like, oh, those guys are gonna die.
Yeah.
But the Asians, I expected them to put up a really good fight. They did a couple cool things, like the flip over the monster,
That was
the
awesome.
monster catching its arms, and then flip, like them just using the boosters to flip over the top of it and chuck the monster. That was cool. But the blades seemed like completely ineffective. It
They
was like,
didn't-
why do we have these on this thing if they don't do anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
But
again, that's like all the story stuff. The fighting was incredibly fun to watch.
yeah, I think that's what's kind of sad is now that we're going back and reviewing it, it's like the story sucks so bad. It was like
Yeah.
so horrible. But at the same time, there's some funny stuff like Charlie Day, Ron Perlman's characters. They did their thing. That was really cool. I liked how he was like the two scientists conflicted
Yeah.
so much and stuff like that. But they were both right in both respects of what they were trying to do. And you know, him tapping into drifting with the kaiju's mind. That was pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
The second time they went into the kaiju mine, though, it was like, what? Like, I didn't understand any of what they just showed. And they were like, we know exactly what's going on. I was like, how? How?
They-
You didn't even explain it to us.
They show like snippets of images, and then like the first time they show him snippets of images, he's like, "Oh yeah, okay, they were the dinosaurs." And I'm like, "Wait, how did you get that from just seeing them making the kaiju?"
Yeah, it's very confusing and very just like, we're giving you the information, we're not explaining how it's done. And that's
Yeah.
kind of why I'm like, this story was horrible.
Yeah.
The acting wasn't as bad as I've heard other people talk about. Like,
It
they
was,
said it was poorly acted. I actually liked the acting. It was
Yeah.
pretty well done.
It was pretty. I mean, like pretty standard. There wasn't like Romeo and Juliet, Shakespearean acting.
yeah, I really liked the people that they picked to throw in it. Charlie Day, Ron Perlman, some of the other people.
I do have to say the black guy I was talking about earlier is actually Idris Elba, who was a really good actor. Like,
Yeah.
he's in Prometheus and The Wire and whatnot.
Yeah, and soon to be Nelson Mandela in the movie he's shooting now. That is, I'm not watching it. That's not my kind of film, but it'll be interesting to see him. You know, I want to see some of the posters of that. But actor-wise, they had a great choice of actors and actresses to go with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was just it strictly was, we're gonna throw in an action movie with giant monsters and mechs, and
Which is really all I ever could have asked for.
yeah, I mean, like I said, it could have been like a Godzilla film where I'm watching Godzilla and Mecha Godzilla fight for 5 hours, and like 3 people show up on screen. I would have been fine with that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty much bottom line, don't watch this movie if you care a lot about storyline. If
Yeah.
you're all about action, you're going to fucking love this movie.
Yeah, if you're just wanting to go out, have a good time, hang out with your buddies like we did, definitely a great movie to watch if you're just looking for some fun shit, lots of explosions, crazy ass looking monsters, and
crazy
giant
ass
Max.
Charlie Day.
Yeah, and crazy ass Charlie Day, kaiju lover.
So,
Overall, what would you guys rate it? So let's just do out of 5 stars.
5 stars, I'd do 4.
yeah, on a purely entertainment basis, I'd do 4.
Yeah, I think the same way. Story-wise, it's like a 2.
Yeah.
They had some really good concepts, but they could have definitely elaborated on those a lot better.
Yeah.
But pure action, entertainment, 4.
All
Strong
right.
4.
Very cool.
And that's us guys from Blockshock.
Look for us next week to possibly do a Rest in Peace division.
Rest in Peace Department. RIPD will be out next week, and we will be doing a review on that next Friday also.
All right.